Well, first of all, what did you want to be when you were a little girl?
The first thing I remember, well, I wanted to be an Olympic basketball player, but I only ended up being 5'2" So the next thing I remembered actually wanting to be was a photographer.
And what motivated that?
Well, what motivated it was that my brother had all kinds of interesting collections, and when people would come over, he would monopolize all their time, and I never got to talk to anybody. And my dad had a camera, and I realized one day I asked him about it a little bit. He showed me how to use it, and I took some pictures, and that was a really big selling point. So I started taking pictures of people, and then when they would come back, I'd have pictures of them, and I'd be able to show them the pictures. And it was always exciting to me, so I really got into photography.
That's great.
Yeah.
And how do you think that translated into what you're doing in your life today?
Well, translated to the fact that I became a professional photographer, I went to college and studied it, and I still use it to promote my organization.
And can you say a little bit about what you do with your organization, your job, and the mission and all that?
I'm the president of SowHope, and we are an organization that's dedicated to inspiring women around the world by providing wellness, education, economic opportunities to the most impoverished women in the world. I'm one of the founders, and I'm the president and CEO of that organization, and we've been working in about 21 developing countries. We're trying to continue to expand and to eventually someday just being a global organization, completely global, and being the organization that is there to help the poorest women in each country.
That's a big job. Sounds like a very big job.
Hopefully it'll go long beyond me.
Well, that's cool.
What impact has it had on your life?
The photography?
The photography and your work.
Okay, well, the impact of photography was that I did end up getting a bachelor's degree in photography, and my first job out of college, I worked at the White House as a staff photographer for the President of the United States. And I continue to use photography as a way to build relationships and to share my view of what I think is important in the world.
Wait 1 second. Who was the president then?
I got to actually photograph Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan.
Wow, that's impressive, Mary. Very impressive.
It was a really neat job, yeah.
Good for you. Did you get any naked pictures?
Many, what kind of pictures?
Naked.
Oh, no, I didn't get any of those. No.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
I did get to photograph his bathroom, though, and every room in the White House before I left, so that was kind of neat. But that's as close as I got.
Okay, well, that was probably close enough if you want to know the truth.
Yeah, it definitely was.
So, what do you think? So, it sounds like you've done a lot of interesting things, but I just wonder what motivated you to want to start a group like SowHope, and sorry for mispronouncing it, SowHope, and your motivation for that kind of vision. How did that happen?
Well, yeah, before I started this organization, I worked as a photographer for many years. I had my own business, and then I actually went to work at a church as a missions director because I was doing that volunteer. And then I got a job at sort of a large church directing their missions, and I was traveling around the developing world. And I kept seeing something that was unbelievable to me, and it was the incredible plight of impoverished women. And I was actually stunned by it, and I was more stunned that nobody seemed to notice or care about it. And I started to ask people, why, am I seeing this right? Because it looks to me like the women are doing all the work, and it doesn't seem fair to me. Do you know why it's like that? I talked to many people, but one poignant answer was a woman who was a Swiss nurse. She said, well, I've been here for 32 years in Ethiopia, and you're right. I didn't think about it before, but you're right. Women do all the work. And I said, you know why it's like that? She said, I have no idea why it's like that, but I can tell you it's not going to change anytime soon because that's the way it's always been. And I think I do attribute the fact that I was seeing it, maybe because I'm a photographer, more than other people would notice it at the time. And I began to speak up about it. And I had there was a lot of sympathy from my friends, my husband, and I wanted to go work for a place that was helping women. I wanted to work for a place, I said at the time, like World Vision, but I wanted it to be global, multinational, doing holistic care for the poorest people. And World Vision does that for kids, and I wanted to work for a place that did it for women. And I thought I'd just be a photographer for a place like that, but I couldn't find even one global organization that had a goal like hundreds do for kids. And so after a couple of months of soul searching and talking to friends and trying to get talked out of it, nobody would talk me out of it. I didn't really want to start an organization, but it became apparent that I was supposed to try to start one. So that's what we did 13 years ago. And so that's what motivated me. I saw a need.
What do you think was, for all of us, we probably had many defining moments that have really been like an aha or, okay, I better get off my ass and do something kind of moments. But I wonder if you've had defining moments in your life.
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't know exactly, but I did say the defining moment for photography was I was in high school, and I'd been taking pictures for like the yearbook and the school newspaper. I got invited to a guy that had a dark room, and he was going to show me how to develop film. And so I took some pictures of my friend, and we put a piece of white paper, blank paper, into a tray of chemicals. And my friend, the white paper turned into an image of my friend magically, and I was so excited. I could not believe what I was seeing. And I even said to the guy, man, this must be how God felt when he created the world, because this is unbelievable. And I knew that was a moment. I knew I was going to be a photographer the rest of my life. I knew that making images, somehow translating what was important to me to paper, and I couldn't draw, that photography would be the medium that I would use. And it was never looked back, really. I just knew it was very defining. As far as starting SowHope, one of the defining moments was I was on a mission trip for my church, and we were down in South America, and I was talking to. We were at a church, and we were doing like a kids club during the day, and off in the corner there were three women pounding grain. It was hot, and they're sweating, and they're pounding grain, and you could tell they were preparing food. And so all day, we kind of spent. We were in the shade, playing with the kids and talking, different people, and we could see these women over there working. And then about 8 o'clock at night, we were led across the street to a beautifully set table in a courtyard, big enough for about 16 people. There were probably 10 of us, and so there were 6 men. I think the pastor and some other leaders of the church. We all sat down at the table, and our team was half women. And there was all this great food on the table. We started to eat, and I looked up and I said, "Well, where are the ladies that made this food?" And everybody kind of said, "Oh, no, they don't. Women don't sit at the table." And I said, "Well, where are they?" I said, "Well, they're in the back." And I said, "Those women that worked all day to make this food can't sit at the table with us to eat it?" And they said, "Well, that's not our culture. They don't sit at the table." And I said, "Well, would you excuse me? I'd like to go talk to them and spend some time with them and thank them for this food." And they said, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." And so I got up and I went back in the back, and three women were standing back there kind of sheepishly, and I could speak Spanish, so I went back and I said, asked them what their names were. They were very good. They said, "Please go back and sit down." And I said, "Well, I really rather just stand and talk to you if you don't mind, and find out about your lives, and thank you for what you did for making all that food." And they said, "Oh, okay, well, you're welcome." And they started telling me their names, and one of them was the pastor's wife, and I said, "Well, what's your life like?" And the lady said, "Well, my life is a lot better now that we're Christians. My husband doesn't beat me as much." And I thought to myself, okay, your Spanish mustn't be up. I learned Spanish in Spain, and I thought, well, there must be something wrong with what you heard. So then I repeated, "Did you just say that your husband doesn't beat you as much?" She said, "No, not nearly as much as he used to." And that was a defining moment for me, and I thought, man, if the pastor of the church doesn't know how to treat women, this is a real problem. So I went back out to the guy that invited us. He was a guy from our church. He was the missionary. I said, "Henry, the pastor's beating his wife?" And he said, "Oh my gosh, is he?" He said, "Well, I'm going to have to have another class with these guys and tell them they can't do that, because it's so ingrained in the culture here that it's hard to it's hard to beat the culture because, but I will have another class and explain that the men of the church men should not hit their wives. And I said, okay, I really appreciate that. But it was a real defining moment for me to realize how bad women have it. So that was a defining moment for me. That I knew that something had to be done for women to start to try to shift these cultures to a more loving, caring position for women.
And what do you think that you've been able to do in the U.S. to make that happen?
You know, my travels had taken me to the developing world, where I saw that women. I know women suffer in the U.S., and I don't by any means think there's equality here in the U.S., but there are laws and there is a culture that dictates that men are supposed to take care of women, and if they don't, it's shameful. In the developing world, the culture dictates that men actually are supposed to beat their wives, and the women are supposed to be slaves to them, and they are treated like animals, worse than animals. Sometimes the women are actually treated worse than animals. And so I knew that I couldn't even reach all those women, but I decided that, in my opinion, they were the poorer women were, no matter what country they were in, were the more oppressed. And the women that I try to deal with, we determined there are about 1.5 billion women that live on less than $2 a day. Now it's like $2.70. And so that became the target group that I wanted SowHope to deal with. Not that I think there aren't great needs in the U.S., there are, but we've decided to focus on the women that nobody else focuses on. There are so very few organizations that actually do help impoverished women. Lots of them help kids, but very, very few help women. And so I've just decided that we'll put all of our energies toward helping as many impoverished women as we can.
No, I do understand. I have worked with a woman in Uganda, and it's just so amazing to me to hear some of the things that go on there with women and their children. And I know you're absolutely right about what you're saying. Although I don't see the laws protecting us here, and if you delve more deeply into the countryside, you would see many women. It's be quite surprising how many women, particularly in places like Appalachia and Mississippi and some of the really poorest states, are probably, some of the same commonality between them and a lot of women in developing countries, because they're chattel, and we see that in domestic violence situations too. So
sure, yeah. I totally agree. I totally agree. It's just that there's so few people going to the women in the developing world, and there should be a lot more people helping the women of our country. I agree that too, but there's nobody. I mean, when I go to help, and I find partners in these countries that are trying to help women, they have no resources. They're just caring people.
Right.
They do not believe that anybody from outside their country would ever care anything about them. So it's been a humbling thing. Yeah, I hope that we grow so big that we can even begin doing stuff here in the U.S. But like I said, we are targeting people who are there's no help for them. There's no I'm not denying that the problems are here. They're here for sure. But there are a lot of people here that have the ability to help people too, and there's a better chance they might get some help. Where we go in SowHope, there just isn't any. It's amazing they'll help kids. We'll help kids. U.S. people will give money to help children, but they won't. They don't. I know why there's no large organization. There's no large global organization helping women because nobody cares about it.
Yeah.
It's extremely difficult to raise funds for them for that because nobody's sympathetic to them.
It's such a strange concept too, but I just wonder, how do you keep yourself from getting discouraged?
Well, for one thing, when we do give them, we raise money and then we give grants to people to help women. And what they do with that little bit of money is so transforming. The first couple of years were extremely difficult for me because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know if it would work. But we have been doing this now for 13 years, and the transformation of women, their children, their communities, it's even reaching into national levels now by women who have been given very little to try to very little opportunity to try to improve their lives. What they can do with that is just remarkable, inspiring, and amazing. So my job is, now that I've been able to persevere, and what I've seen is so remarkable that I'll do this till the day I die.
What do you think was the true motivation for things that you've done since you decided to take charge of your life?
I think that motivation was love. I love people, and I hope that they can feel that they're valuable and loved. And so by reaching out to them, I'm hoping that somehow they feel that. And I believe my motivation really was a divine motivation, that God was telling me to go do this. And it was impossible. It was an impossible, big, large thing to even consider. And I never really thought that I could do it. But I just felt that I was supposed to obey God and try to do it, even though it would fail. And so far it's been going and growing amazingly. Even in spite of what I thought initially, it is actually growing.
So how do you hope to use what you've learned from all of these amazing experiences and your dreams as a little girl for your future?
Well, I'm hoping to use my passion skills to bring comfort to the hurting of the world. I like to use my photos to tell stories and to inform people of what's going on. Picture's worth 1,000 words, so it's a lot easier to show a picture to somebody than to try to keep explaining it. So I think that's a gift that I have that allows me to be able to share more about what's going on. And I use a lot of video through my photography skills to tell stories too. So I think that those things combined will change some lives, and it has already changed lives. It's already saved a lot of lives. We've helped save a lot of lives, and even though we're a small organization, we've been able to actually grant over $1 million to people, and it's changed lots of lives. And a lot of people their kids are a lot better off, and they're better off, and so it's really quite inspiring.
What kind of presence do you have on social media?
Well, we have a Facebook page. I mean, we're kind of a typical small organization. We have like 2,000 followers, but they're all real followers. We're not paying for people to sign up, and we have a Twitter account and an Instagram account. We have college kids that mostly are posting on those things for us, because it takes a lot of time to do all that kind of stuff. Plus, we're in the organization, so I supply the stories and the photos, and we try to get interns to work on the social media.
That's good. They need the experience on their resume, so that's very good.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since
that's who looks at it. So it's not. It doesn't raise much money, but it's building. We know it's important because we have to think about the future. And someday these kids will be adults and they will be donating. And at that point, we're hoping that it continues to grow. We have if you look at all organizations on Facebook, for example, there's you grow over time, and it's word of mouth, or not word of mouth, whatever. What do they call it now when people share online? But I think with time it'll just continue to grow. We've grown at over a 20% rate on revenues each year that we've been in existence. So we just try to keep growing. In some ways, I thought we would grow a lot faster than we did when I first started, but now looking back, I realize it's a much healthier way to grow. We're able to really do what we want to do and not waste any money. Our money is extremely efficient. We're very, very careful of how we spend our money. So we've actually been. There's hardly any regrets about what we've done with our money and how we go about what we're doing.
How do you create partnerships with other people and groups in other countries?
Because I was a missions director, I had an extensive network in the world, and basically I just tell people what I'm doing, and then they'll tell me, hey, if you're going to go to this country, you need to go meet this person. They're really great. They're helping women in the slums, or they're helping people here, or all of our partners I have gotten through. Either I knew them, or someone I trust told me to go visit them, and I go and visit all of them before we give them any money. And we always go back after we give money to see how it went. And so it's relationship. It's all built on relationships. And I've got a team of people that volunteer and go with me. And sometimes I well, mostly I've gone, but we're trying to move into more people doing this in our organization, so it doesn't just always depend on me. Because eventually I'm going to die, and somebody else will need to do this. So I try to bring young people and people my age to come do the vetting of the partners, and also to evaluate the projects that they're doing.
How did you use the Women's PeacePower Foundation Award?
I think I wrote to you guys when I used that. We've done over 265 projects, and so I think at that point, man, I looked it up. I think it was a sewing project, I believe, that we used it for.
Well, that's all right. We're just thinking about, you know, how each person that gets an award has used it a little bit differently, and we're not really doing awards right now, so we're just like
Well, we give grants to people in the third world, so we applied it to a grant that was right around the same time, and I'm pretty sure that when I looked it up to see what we did with it, and I believe it was a sewing project. Yeah, pretty sure that's what I said.
What do you think about the monthly boxes that we've been sending you, hopefully nourishing?
They're fun to get. I got 2 boxes on my dresser. They're so colorful. It makes me smile when I see them. So I think it's good. It's been really cute. Appreciate it.
Well, one of the goals that we've had, perhaps the main or only goal, has been to find ways that we could nourish and encourage women like us who've been activists for a big part of our adult lives. And
Sure.
we thought it would be fun to do the boxes and see what the reaction would be.
Yeah, that would be great. They're fun. I mean, it's when I get the package, it's like, oh, I wonder what they sent this time.
That's good.
Yeah, it's nice. It's
Next time it might be one of those little claw snakes that jumps out.
No.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised, I guess. But it wouldn't. It will surprise me, but it won't surprise me.
Okay, all right.
All right, I'm going to get serious again. What was the best advice you've ever received, and how did you use it?
Well, I thought about this question, and I've had so many mentors in my life, so many people that really took me under their wing and gave me great advice. I guess the greatest advice, I often think back of very formative years. When I was in 8th grade, went to a Catholic school, and a nun was my teacher. She was an amazing person, and I had been elected class president. And one day I was conducting the class meeting, whatever, we were having a meeting. I was up at the front. I was kind of leaning on the podium and, conducting the meeting, sort of, I don't know, haphazardly or something. And the teacher was in the back. And she looked up and she was grading papers or something. She looked up and she said, "Madam President." I said, "Yes." And she said, "Are you the president of this class?" I said, "Yes, I am." She said, "Then stand up and act like one. Stand up straight and act like one. Act like a president." And so I sit up straight, and I realized that if you're going to do something or be something or say you are something, then be the best you can at it. And so it made me, that's really stayed with me. And I think it made me realize that whatever I do, from a wife or a mother or a Christian or a friend or a CEO, I should act like that. And I should be that person, not slough off, not be who you say you are. Do the right things and do it right. So that's probably the best advice I ever got.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for your time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.